What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check update, the bipartisan infrastructure vote, the debt limit ceiling that the government is going to default sometime in October, around October 15th. For the first time ever, the government will default, literally run out of money and go bankrupt if they don't pass a bill in Congress to raise the debt limit ceiling just to pay the interest on all the past government debts and going forward as well, and to prevent a government shutdown on September 30th at midnight. Before then, the government will shut down and we will have a default, two different things. And we have a very important vote going on today in the Senate. That's right. We're going to be covering all this as well as the $3.5 trillion stimulus package and the bipartisan infrastructure package in this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. It's completely free to do so. And remember that new videos come out here on our channel every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you find these videos helpful, don't forget to hit the like button for us down below. Okay, here is Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor here today. Check this out.
Well, Madam President, after today, I ask unanimous
Majority
consent
Leader,
the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
Madam President, after today, there'll be no doubt which party in this chamber is working to solve the problems that face our country, and which party is accelerating us towards an unnecessary, avoidable disaster. Let me say that again without interruption. Madam President, after today, there will be no doubt about which party in this chamber is working to solve the problems that face our country and which party is accelerating us towards unnecessary, avoidable disaster. At the end of last week, I filed cloture on proceeding to the continuing resolution sent to us by the House of Representatives, which, among other things, would prevent a government shutdown and suspend the debt limit so we can pay for our debts incurred during the previous administration. In a few hours, we will vote on cloture on the motion to proceed to this bill. The Democrats will do the responsible thing, the right thing, the thing that's been done for decades by both parties, and vote yes. Now, if Republicans follow through with their plans to vote no, they will be on record deliberately sabotaging our country's ability to pay the bills and likely causing the first ever default in American history. The consequences of a default would be, in the words of Secretary Yellen, catastrophic. The best case scenario is the best case under this awful situation is that our country would fall into another recession, potentially erasing all the progress we have made to pull ourselves out of the COVID crisis. That is, if we're lucky. Otherwise, one analysis warned that default could hurt Americans for generations. For generations. Interest costs will be higher and not go down very quickly. And that has huge effects on so many different people, and that's only one of the effects of default. So I want my Republican colleagues to think carefully about the practical consequences of what they're doing. A default means, quite simply, the government cannot pay its bills. It means that suddenly the government is presented with unimaginable options. Do they tell seniors they won't get their Social Security checks, or veterans that they won't see their benefits, or tell our military they won't be getting paid? And the consequences on Main Street would be equally severe. A default would very likely send markets crashing and interest rates skyrocketing, making it harder for small businesses to make ends meet, for homeowners and renters to pay the bills, and for consumers to keep our economy going. All of the consequences, or so many of the consequences, can be boiled down into three frightening numbers: 6 million, 9, 15 trillion. 6 million jobs lost, 9% unemployment, 15 trillion in squandered household wealth. Let me say that again. Those are devastating numbers on so many households throughout America, just about every household. That's 6 million jobs lost, 9% unemployment, 15 trillion in squandered household wealth. Yes, that's what we're potentially looking at, if Republicans get their irresponsible and reckless way. None of this needs to happen. None of it. The only reason we're here, the only reason this is even a possibility, is because Republicans are making this a possibility by preventing the government from paying its bills. It's an unhinged position to take, one that not long ago only the most radical elements of the Republican Party would have embraced. There's no scenario in God's green earth where it should be worth risking millions of jobs, trillions in household wealth, people's Social Security checks, veterans' benefits, and another recession just to score short-term, meaningless political points. That's what Republicans seem fixated on doing. Now, there's a very simple step we can take today to guarantee the government won't default and won't shut down. Both sides can come together to vote yes on today's vote and vote to pass the continuing resolution. Just as Democrats worked in a bipartisan fashion under the Trump administration, Republicans must now step up to the plate. To do otherwise is the height of recklessness, irresponsibility. Republicans say they don't want to see a government shutdown. They say they don't want to see our government default on our debt. Then they should vote yes. It's plain and simple. It's very clear. There's no obfuscation here. Crystal clear. Voting yes means avoiding default and avoiding a government shutdown. Voting no says, let's risk it. Let's risk it. By choosing to block today's resolution, Republicans are intentionally making default more likely. By blocking an extension of the debt limit, Republicans will solidify themselves for a long time as the party of default. I cannot emphasize that this isn't just another political game. We're facing a parade of horribles that will hurt every single American in this country. And it's important to remember that today's vote would also advance a number of priorities besides just funding the government and avoiding default, as important as those are. It would provide desperately needed emergency funding for millions of people affected by natural disasters from this summer, including hurricanes, wildfires, and flooding across Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia. It would provide billions to help resettle Afghan refugees who risk their lives, helping our troops abroad. Both sides claim they support these priorities, so the easy answer is to vote yes later today. Madam President, being elected to office means sometimes you have to do things to rise above partisan politics. It means we have an obligation to work together when our country faces an acute crisis. Tearing the barn down is easy. Building it up, preserving it, keeping it standing year after year takes hard work and cooperation. And at the end of the day, the only thing that matters in this chamber is how its members vote.
Well, there it is. You heard Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. So literally, as I'm filming this video, they're on the Senate floor voting. I tried to wait as long as possible. As you know, I filmed these videos a little bit before scheduled time. But it takes me time to film this video, it takes my wife time to edit the video, it takes time to process the video, then upload the video to YouTube, and then have it live or ready for my scheduled time, which at this point is my 8 p.m. video. So here is the status of the vote for the government shutdown bill, the government default bill, the aid for disaster relief, the hurricane relief, and there's actually money in there for the Afghan refugees, which I might want to say that both Republicans and Democrats support, because I'm shocked that there's even that in there. I personally think that that shouldn't be in there. But Mitch McConnell has a counter bill that's pretty much the same bill, and Mitch McConnell included that in there as well. Their bill has everything in there, but without the debt limit ceilings, because again, for some reason, the Republicans don't want to pass the debt limit ceiling, which is actually the most important thing, not letting the government default. So I just want to kind of throw that in there. Both Republicans and Democrats are in support of giving money to the Afghan refugees. So just to make that clear, I don't think that should be in there, but nonetheless it is. But here's the vote right now going live. So yeah, here it is on the Senate floor. It's 49-49, and it's been stuck this way for a while. Now, note that this bill is going to fail. because as you can see here, 60 votes needed to begin debate. This is actually a vote just to begin debate. So they're not even going to make it to the next stage of the voting, which would be the actual vote. So again, write down party lines. We're going to have 50 Democrats voting yes, 50 Republicans voting no. For some reason, it's gotten hung up here with 2 votes left to go. But it's safe to say that it's not going to pass because you need, as you can see here right in yellow, 60 votes needed to begin debates or 60 votes needed to pass. So just as I kind of expected, all the Republicans voted no. Okay, I mean, again, there's 2 votes left to go here, but this bill is not going to pass. They're not even going to make it to the next stage of voting. All the Republicans voted no. Again, as you can see here, maybe by the end of this video, here in a few minutes, I might have a final vote here. But basically, 49 Republicans at this point have voted no, and 49 Democrats have voted yes. So the bill is not going to pass. A government funding bill through December 3rd. And to, you can see the senators are maybe coming back in right now. And to raise the debt limit ceiling, which I believe is going to go through 2022. So right now, we are looking at a government shutdown and a possible government default. So, yeah, it is not looking good, guys. This bill is going to fail. 60 votes needed just to get to the next stage. Yeah.
Mr. Schumer.
I vote no.
No.
On this vote, the yeas are 48, the nays are 50. 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative, the motion is not agreed to.
I enter a motion to reconsider the failed cloture vote.
The motion's entered.
Now, Mr. President, I want to make sure everyone understands exactly what has happened here on the Senate floor.
This is live right now.
The Republican Party has now become the party of default, the party that says America doesn't pay its debts. Our country is staring down the barrel of 2 totally Republican-manufactured disasters, a government shutdown and a first-ever default on the national debt. The impacts of both would gravely harm every single American in this country. Republicans would let the country default for the first time in history. A few moments ago, the Senate had an opportunity to begin solving these problems right away. Democrats did their part and voted yes. But Senate Republicans, meanwhile, voted to drive our country straight towards a government shutdown and the first default in our country's history. Let me be clear. What the Republicans in the Senate did tonight is not normal. This isn't your typical Washington fracas, and it shouldn't be treated as such. It has far more severe consequences than the typical political catfight. Republicans know the consequences of their obstruction. They know a default would likely create a recession. They know that middle-class families will suffer immensely. They've heard the same warnings that we have. And by many calculations, the Republican default will raise the deficit by more than the American Rescue Plan. And yet, Republicans still obstructed tonight. It's one of the most reckless, one of the most irresponsible votes I have seen taken place in the Senate. And it should send a signal to every family, small business, market watcher about who in this chamber is in favor of endangering the economic stability of our country and who isn't. Let me repeat, the Republican Party has solidified itself as the party of default, and it will be the American people who pay the price.
Wow.
Social Security checks, Medicare benefits, veterans benefits, small business, all this and more are now on the chopping block because Senate Republicans are playing games with the full faith and credit of the United States. Now, Despite Republican intransigence, this matter cannot be set aside for even a moment. Before the vote, I changed my vote from yes to no in order to reserve the option of additional action on the House-passed legislation. Keeping the government open and preventing a default is vital to our country's future, and we'll be taking further action to prevent this from happening this week.
So there you have it. The bill has failed. This is a bill to prevent a government shutdown on September 30th, which is now less than 3 days away, almost at this point, 2 days away. It also is to prevent a government default. And you heard him say there twice, this could affect Social Security payments. This could affect payments to the military. This could affect, they've said before, child tax credit payments. This could affect anything that has to do with funding from the government. You also heard him say there that, and we've seen him do this before, that the Senate Majority Leader, he changed his vote from yes to no at the very last moment. This is kind of a procedural motion. Whenever a bill fails, the Senate Majority Leader will sometimes change their vote from yes to no if the bill is going to fail anyways, so that they can reserve their right to do that in case they are going to bring the vote up again later on. So again, sometimes they do that. We've seen him do that before. If you've been watching the show for a while, sometimes they will do that if they plan on possibly bringing the vote up again later on in the future. So again, he had a yes vote. He changed it to a no vote at the last second. It wouldn't have mattered because the bill was going to fail anyways. So just so everybody's clear there, the bill needed 60 votes to pass. So he changed his vote from a yes to a no vote at the very last second so that he can reserve. It's kind of a procedural motion to bring the vote up again at a later time if need be. So yeah, and this kind of brings us to our next steps. The White House is beginning to tell government agencies to prepare for a government shutdown that will happen on September 30th at midnight. This is even more so now the case now that the government shutdown bill has failed in the Senate, and a U.S. could default on the debt and have a government default and a possible, literally the government running out of money. It's equivalent to the government somewhat going bankrupt. The government potentially not having money to pay for, and you heard Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer there, they might not have money to pay for Social Security. They might not have money to pay for child tax credit payments, the military, school systems, anything that the government has to pay for, debt obligations, interest on debt obligations, anything that the government has to pay for could be in jeopardy sometime in October. A third-party debt analysis says it could come somewhere around October 15th, which is a little bit over 2 weeks away. That doesn't mean it could come. It could come earlier. It could come later. This is an estimate. Okay, so it could come earlier, it could come later. It doesn't mean it could come October 7th. It could come October 20th. This is an estimate. Yeah, so I mean, literally, the White House is telling people and government agencies to prepare for a government shutdown, which will come on September 30th at midnight, and that the U.S. could default as soon as October 15th. That's an estimate. The September 30th is an actual date for a default. Now we're also expected to vote on the infrastructure bill on September 30th, which is Thursday, I believe. Yeah, that is Thursday, September 30th. On the infrastructure bill, who knows if that's going to happen now, if we're going to have a government shutdown on the same day and a possible debt limit ceiling. Man, what a turn of events, man. Let me know your thoughts. I think this really solidifies the feeling going forward. I mean, you've seen Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer mention the risk of Social Security payments 2 different times before the votes and after the votes. Man, now Social Security has its own fund, But when the government runs out of money, I mean, he's the Senate Majority Leader. You heard him say it directly from his mouth. And there's a lot more than just Social Security at risk. The child tax credit payments, those monthly payments going out to 65 million children, payments to the military, any government worker, those payments are in jeopardy. School system payments, um, anything, any type of payments from the government, police, fire, um, anything. Just picture anything that comes from the government could potentially be at risk with the government default. The government shutdown, all non-essential services will be shut down on September 30th at midnight if we have a government shutdown, if we don't come to an agreement, which is now going to happen in 2 to 3 days. This is serious, guys. I mean, the bill just failed. Not a single Republican voted yes on it. Yeah, my wife says they didn't even vote to let it be discussed. They didn't even get to the final vote. They voted no to let it even begin debate. Yeah. Now, the Democrats can pass this on their own through the reconciliation process, through the stimulus package, but Um, we have several key Democrat lawmakers, especially House Budget Committee Chairman John Yarmuth says the Democrats lack the time to raise the debt limit on their own, and it's a very good chance that the country could default before they're able to raise the debt limit through the reconciliation process. This is why it would be a whole lot easier if the Republicans would just vote to raise the debt limit, like is always done, like they did 3 times in the last 4 years, and they did 60 times in the last 80 years. But we're getting Republicans refusing to do that and literally risking the full faith and credit of the United States and risking our entire economy. So whether they're able to do it or not is, who knows? It's literally a gamble. It's a coin flip. And I think it's almost assuredly fact that they're not going to make it before a government shutdown on September 30th. So, yeah, that's why I like to show you guys these headlines. I like to show you these interviews. So, literally, the Senate Majority Leader, you've seen him speak literally directly from his mouth. So, you guys know exactly what is happening. And in fact, the Hill already has an article up here. The GOP, the Republican Party, blocks the debt limit hike and the government funding. So there it is in black and white, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this. I'll be here with you guys to wade through this every step of the way. We'll get through this together, and we'll figure out what's going to happen with the stimulus package, what's going to happen with the infrastructure package, what's going to happen with the government shutdown, what's going to happen with the debt limit ceiling as the Democrats try to raise it on their own, or maybe the Republicans will come around and maybe decide to vote yes down the line. uh, uh, Even my wife's saying not a chance. I don't know. Do you think the Republicans will come around in the next few days? Do you think maybe after a government shutdown for a few days, maybe the Republicans will come around? Do you think there'll be time to pass the stimulus package before a debt limit default? Even Mitch McConnell says we can't have a default. We cannot have a default. It's like the worst thing ever. It's equivalent to the U.S. government going bankrupt and telling the entire world we have gone bankrupt. All because we have to pass a stupid bill that says, yeah, we have to just be able to print more money and just to pay our interest. They really need to just get rid of this debt limit ceiling. We're the only country in the world that even does it this way. I think and even we've had some Republicans and some Democrats that say we should just get rid of this debt limit ceiling altogether, which they can do. The Democrats can actually just, if they want to do it on their own, they can just get rid of it. Instead of just having to pass a bill every year or two to just raise it, they should just get rid of it, which they can do actually. And more people are saying we should just get rid of it, which they can do. Whether they're going to do that or not, or just raise it, is up to them. But they really should just get rid of it so we don't have to go through this every year or two. It's like the government funding bill that they have to do every year or two, which is going to be what shuts the government down on September 30th, because we have to do this every year for the annual government budget as well. That's ridiculous alone. That should at the bare minimum be every 2 years. Because to have to go through this every year or two for the annual government budget and the debt limit ceiling, which is every 1 to 2 years, is utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. I mean, we must look like a laughing stock to the rest of the world. And now we're going to literally run out of money and have a government default because we just can't agree to a bill. Anyways, I'll be here with you guys every day to work through this and weed through this. I'll give you guys the latest information so we can figure it out, and we'll be here together to here with the latest news, and I'll walk you guys through it. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Deep breaths, deep breaths. We'll get through this. You can click here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And here is how they want to add $1,000 debit cards into the next stimulus package. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video.